Tonight, unity, key link to sweeter deals between ACP and the EU. Fuel price hike effective at midnight. And centralizing emergency response. Very good evening. Prime Minister Commodore Vorenge Bainimarama says Fiji and the other African, Caribbean, Pacific nations need to be united when lobbying for a fair deal with the European Union on future sugar prices. Not mincing his words when opening the 13th ACP Ministerial Conference this morning, he says unless smaller ACP members stand united, they stand to lose out. Mathimbole Tamana reports.
Over 100 sugar ministers and experts from 27 countries in the ACP region conversed in Singapore today to deliberate on ways forward in dealing with the poor market responses on the global sugar platform as of late. In his opening address, Prime Minister Bainimarama did not tiptoe around the glaring obstacles faced by Fiji now and the future of the industry.
The global market environment for sugar has not been healthy. It has been characterized by higher production and lower prices and has severely tested us in recent years. Now more than ever, we need a united front and at the same time understanding and a fair deal from our European partners.
Bainimarama says whilst Fiji has been built on the sugarcane industry for more than a century, things have changed over the years with a diversified approaches bolstering the economy through tourism and the like. But this, he says, did not take away the significance of sugar.
It is critical that adequate support and time are provided to ACP sugar-producing countries. For Fiji, this support has been sorely lacking. Disbursement of the Promise Accompanying Measure Support Program has been politicized, and Fiji has not received the fair share owed to it.
Bainimarama says unilaterally imposed changes to the European Commission's Market Access Regulation 1528 of 2007 has created a lot of uncertainty as this threatens to remove access despite the fact that negotiations on full EPAs have yet to be completed.
It is now apparent that our concerns and expectations were not fully taken into account and that our call for greater coherence in trade, agriculture and development policies was ignored by EU decision makers. This conference presents an excellent opportunity to take stock of all these developments.
The EU continues to be a key sugar export market for ACP nations despite the challenges our small and vulnerable economies have had to grapple with in recent years. The 4-day meeting on Yanuda Island will see 27 nations form a united front in a bid to strengthen economic partnership agreements for the future. Mathimbole Tamana, Fiji One News.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the ACP Ministerial Committee on Sugar says the conference needs to address certain issues in detail, especially those that deal with trade and the future of the industry in member countries. In his opening address at the meeting, Satya Vyash Fogu says deliberations must focus on the theme of the meeting, the evolving policy environment of the ACP cane industry. Fogu says a large part of this is strengthening trade ties with its major export market provider, the European Union.
ACP countries, especially the small island economies, will face new challenges and some countries may even be forced out of production. These would further undermine the guarantees on sugar trade preferences made to the ACPs just a few years ago. They are likely to threaten the stability of the EU sugar market and result in even lower EU prices and a loss of market share for the ACP countries.
Fogu agreed with the Prime Minister Vorenge Bainimarama that numerous trade deals constricted small and vulnerable economies from dealing with the EU.
We have all witnessed significant erosion of preferences for ACP sugar to the EU market that were agreed has been the most daunting one for most ACP countries. Analysts have observed that the agreements under the Lomé 1-4
And Commodore Mbarimarama is expected to meet with the Deputy Director General of the European Commission, Marcus Cunaro, later this evening in Singatoka. Fuel and gas prices have been reviewed upwards. Commerce Commission Chairman Dr. Mahen Reddy says these latest price movements reflected changing global conditions. Drew Vukelangi with the details.
The Commerce Commission has today announced an increase in the price of fuel and LPG. Following the review in the third quarter, an increase in the world market prices of fuel and LPG will now trickle down to consumers here. The major increases are in the price of kerosene, diesel and LPG.
In this quarter, generally you will find that the international prices of these products tend to rise. That is the major driving variable that can have a major impact on price changes.
Even the Fiji dollar has depreciated by 2.61% against the US greenback, which has a negative impact on local prices too.
Our dollar has depreciated relative to the US dollar by 2.6% over the last quarter. These two factors has resulted in increase in prices of both the petroleum product as well as the liquefied petroleum product.
The Commission says the increase is simply beyond their control.
When it was not under price control, particularly the liquefied petroleum gas, that you were not witnessing a symmetrical movement in price changes domestically, meaning that if the prices were declining in the source market, then we were not witnessing a similar trend in prices down. So what we have done is we ensure that any changes in price is passed on to the consumer here.
These new prices of fuel and LPG will come effective tonight. Ndreu Bukelangi, Fiji One News.
Government has approved the formation of the National Emergency Operations Centre. That means in case of any natural disaster, all key agencies, including the Ministry of National Disaster Management, will operate under one roof. As Salite Start reports, the centre will be operational 24/7.
This will soon be the new home of National Disaster Management Office. Located at Selban Street here in the heart of the capital city, this building will now accommodate the NDMO and other key government agencies. And during any disaster, all agencies will coordinate disaster and emergency response from here.
It's compartmentalized. We don't have a system of communication that is interoperable. And these are the challenges that we have as we try to improve on service delivery. We need to be communicating under one roof. We need to plan together. It's an integrated approach.
Serio says there's a need for disaster response agencies to be operational 24 hours, unlike in the past. This, he says, will coordinate efforts in a faster and manageable manner.
We just had an earthquake yesterday, but everybody has to rush from wherever they are in order to coordinate the information and the responses. This hopefully is something that will be avoided when we all come together under one roof, and of course have systems in place so that the center is manned 24 hours.
Coordination is a key factor in disaster response efforts. Getting all agencies under one roof is a key lesson from past experiences.
We are ready to move in as long as the building is made available. We are still working on that, and of course we are liaising with the agencies that are responsible, and we hope that it will be soon.
As we are drawing closer to the cyclone season, Serio says government is determined to ensure all efforts are coordinated efficiently and effectively during natural disasters. Haliteshdat, Fiji One News.
And to better prepare itself for any natural disasters, a series of special trainings will be conducted for key agencies. Facilitated by the Secretariat of the Pacific Community and the World Bank, this proactive approach is aimed at reducing cost in terms of damages and loss of lives.
It goes without saying that prevention is better than cure. And that's what other stakeholders that work with the National Disaster Management Office are trying to achieve, to be prepared for any disaster.
Historically, we've, across the Pacific, not only in Fiji, there's been a lot of time spent following disasters in looking at damage. So, looking at the damage to buildings and damage to infrastructure. What this training is about is trying to expand that horizon a little bit and to look at the losses that are related to all the damage that we incur following post-disaster events.
This is also a government effort to align post-disaster needs assessment to the standard of World Bank.
Previously, we have been running our own means and methods, systems of quantifying disaster losses and damages. But with the PDNA concept, we are indeed grateful that we have been able to improve on the effectiveness and efficiency of our post-disaster needs recovery.
There have also been some valuable lessons learned from the 3 major disasters last year. These were in terms of preparation and communication.
We have also some shortfalls, particularly in the area of logistics. That's something that we need to work on. And of course, with our communications as well. Particularly our communication equipments, these are the things that we need to work on.
Government is already in preparation mode and is urging the general public to do the same. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
And as you heard earlier, a medium-sized earthquake was felt within the Central and Eastern Division last night. The 4.5 magnitude earthquake occurred around 7 o'clock at a shallow depth of 40.2 kilometers. Areas that fell to the earthquake were Suva, Makandru Village, Matuku Island, Maloko Village, Moala Island, Cuva, Tailevu and nearby areas. There were no major reports of damage. The use of official government vehicles for funerals or rengus will now have to get the full approval from the Finance Ministry. The Public Service Commission has since issued a circular to all government ministry permanent secretaries and department heads. This means that only the Permanent Secretary for Finance has the authority to approve such requests. The PSC says this is also in line with the transport policy issued by the Finance Ministry in June this year. Still ahead, training to better manage vaccines gets underway in Suva. And find out how a marginalized group will benefit from IDEA. Hello again. Leading this segment, a 50-year-old farmer of Nassau in Nandi was rushed to the Nandi hospital last night after he was allegedly hit by a vehicle. The vehicle was driven by a 29-year-old hotel worker of Nawe-Dhomba. The incident occurred along the Nandi back road at around 7 o'clock last night. The victim was riding his horse at the time when he was hit. He was conveyed to the Nandi hospital and later transferred to the Lautoka hospital, where he is currently admitted. It is not clear if the horse also sustained injuries. To ensure the quality of cold chain maintenance for vaccines, the Ministry of Health, along with the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, is taking a targeted approach to manage stock. A training workshop got underway this morning with the aim of enlightening regional health professionals about proper practices pertaining to vaccines.
Maintaining and managing vaccines here in the Pacific can be a challenging one, especially if you don't have the right resources. This week's Train the Trainer in Vaccine Management and Maintenance for regional health officials got underway at the Fiji Pharmaceutical and Biochemical Supply Center. Fiji has proper facilities for maintaining and managing vaccines, thanks to assistance from donor agencies.
The long-term benefits are to the children and to the community and to the people, national development, and we're very grateful to have come to this point.
Because of the geographical challenges faced here in the Pacific, these kinds of workshops are crucial.
JICA provides support with the vaccination management, the support with the cold chain, how we can effectively get that across, especially now with climate change and all the disasters which are taking place. We need to be able to get the remoteness out of our services.
Even in its final year, JICA will be looking at taking the workshop to another level.
We are planning to conduct another training, and it is a training in Japan. And we have another scheme, which is we conduct the training in Japan, and we invite the participants from the Pacific Island countries, and every year, and we invite them to Japan, and we conduct special trainings for the cold chain and the vaccine management. And that's what we are thinking about. Because we have already reached some kind of level.
The workshop ends on Friday. Richard Nath, Fiji One News.
An initiative to help people living with disabilities secure employment has yet to reach its full potential. Those behind the Include Disability, Employ Disability or idea that was launched in mid-July say it still needs government's full support. Richard Nath reports.
This is what Include Disability, Employability is all about. Giving equal opportunity to everyone despite one's disabilities. The IDEA survey forms that was launched in July has its fair share of problems. But despite all that, it is slowly picking up momentum.
Quite far, Richard. They just today starts a person with disability, thankfully with the opportunity for employment with Holiday Inn. We are very thankful to the management for Holiday Inn and presenting an opportunity for a person with disability to be employed with them.
The chair for IDEA feels that not enough is done and that the program needs more recognition.
Sadly, the internal component seems to be the weak one, is that there is no real proper recognition, and we need government to take on more emphasis into what the program is about. The program actually is focused on bringing people out of poverty.
People living with disability.
People living with disability.
The manager of Holiday Inn believes that everyone should be given a chance despite their disabilities.
Well, the main message is employ for ability, and yeah, no matter if they're disabled or not disabled, get the best person for the job, and give everyone an opportunity to apply and to be selected.
Alisi is the first person with disability to land a job through the IDEA program. Richard Nath, Fiji One News.
The World Health Organization has predicted that mental health will be the leading non-communicable disease in the world by 2025. With that in mind, the Ministry of Health has diverted a lot of resources to this particular area. This in turn has prompted those suffering from mental illness to seek treatment early.
Dealing with mental health can have an adverse effect on an individual. For siblings Luke and Kilera, having to deal with the illness while growing up was a big challenge. Once she was diagnosed with bipolar, Kilera's world came crumbling down. But thanks to support from home, she was able to deal with her disorder.
When I was being diagnosed with this illness, I was isolating myself, because I was in denial. But then now I've accepted that I have a mental illness, and it doesn't only stop me from here. Like, I can manage my illness. Even though I have a mental illness, I can manage it through the support from my family and also for PSA, which is a Psychiatric Survivors Association, and also my friends, and also with the divine intervention.
For Kilera, the most difficult and challenging thing was getting rid of the stigma and accepting the fact that she had a mental illness.
The thing that made me come forward is just when I accepted my illness, and then I googled about it in the internet, and one of the recoveries is for you to join a group and to take time out, which is why I joined PSA, and also encourage survivors, where we share our experiences, to other members. It encourage other survivors to be bold and just come out and speak about our experiences.
Her brother is a proud founding member of the Psychiatric Survivors Association and also suffers from bipolar. The association has been a pillar of strength for those who suffer from the illness.
When we visit them, when you go to visit them at their home, when you tell them about the aims of the organization, some of them want to become involved. So bus fare concession for the bus fare and things like that, they come and join the organization. They come out of their shell.
World Mental Health Day is celebrated on the 10th of October every year. Richard Nath, Fiji One News.
The Ministry of Health has embarked on establishing a domestic palliative care service in the West and here in the capital city. The centre basically provides health care that focuses on relieving and, to an extent, prevent the suffering of cancer patients. That covers all stages of cancer, from those undergoing treatment for curable illnesses and those living with chronic diseases, as well as those with minimal chances of survival.
Patients who are terminally ill with cancer now can have their district nurse visit them on a regular basis to be able to address issues with caregivers, immediate relatives, and be able to attend to the patient as far as very basic physical needs may be required at that point in time, and to help adjust the medication so they don't suffer in pain.
The Ministry is happy with the progress so far and believes this service will play an important role in terms of overall treatment and care for cancer sufferers.
We are happy with this arrangement, and it is still growing, and I anticipate that in another 6 months' time this service will be a lot more robust and meaningful to patients who have terminal cancer.
Last week, those from the Lomoibiti province converged in Levuka to celebrate Fiji Day. More than 3,000 people crowded the streets of Levuka to march and join in the celebrations at Nassau Park and Ovalau. Minister for Social Welfare, Women and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Chico Lubeni, was the chief guest at the event. 500 school students took part in the march, and there were exhibitions and oratory contests organized to mark Fiji's 43rd year of independence. Dr. Lubeni took the opportunity to reinforce government's commitment towards creating equal opportunities for every Fijian under the new constitution. We have the latest from around the region up next. Stay with us. The Community Education and Training Centre, a division of the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, is marking its 50th anniversary this week. Since its inception, more than 17,600 women from the region have been trained here at its Narere office. The training provided has focused on nurturing women to be leaders, facilitators, and on contributing towards the development of their respective communities and countries. 13 women from the region will also be recognized for their contribution towards the development of their countries.
We've done a lot of tracer studies over the years on our women graduates, and a lot of them have made significant contributions to their communities. But one of the events for the celebration this week is the award of Regional Community Development Champions.
The CETC's Golden Jubilee celebration got underway in the last hour with a group of pioneer students participating in the event. However, this program, which has been facilitated by SPC, will be ending this year.
This is the final year for the program to be delivered for women under SPC. Next year, the program is going to be transferred to the University of the South Pacific, and it's going to be delivered under the University of the South Pacific through its regional campuses.
Vodafone has added another school to their 50-50 policy initiative under their M Education program. This saw Udiwai Sangam School receiving 10 mini laptops, a router and internet connection for a year. Vodafone says more schools have joined the growing list of other schools from around the country that have been helped by the Vodafone Foundation under its 50-50 funding initiative to bridge the digital divide in the education sector. Udiwai School head teacher Navneet Kumar says this will make a big difference to students. Since the start of the initiative in June this year, over 200 laptops with internet connectivity have been set up as part of the M Education program. And Maran joins me this week for sports, and Fiji Sevens failed to retain Gold Coast title, as we all saw.
Yes, Vili, they fell short in the Cup semi-finals, but hey, they still came home with the plate. That's coming up. Also ahead tonight, Nandi President disputes IDC final refereeing. And swimming confirm one winner for short course age national. Leading sports tonight, the Fiji Sevens team had to settle for plate at the Gold Coast Sevens after losing out in the Cup semi-finals. They thumped Kenya 36-0 in the plate finals last night. The side were just unstoppable off the blocks as they ran in 6 tries to win the game.
The Digicel Fiji Sevens team came firing up in the Gold Coast Sevens plate final against Kenya. The side got on scoreboard 2 minutes from the start. A try from Samisoni Viriviri. Surely a much improved performance after bowing out of the cup quarters.
Yeah, well, I told them that places are at stake now, you know, that they need to show me what they're made of, you know, and you're always going to lose games. No team's going to go unbeaten throughout the season, and it's about how you bounce back sometimes. They were very disappointed after the quarter-final. I thought they bounced back well against Samoa.
4 minutes into the game and tournament's debutant, Waisiana Dugu went for the try. Fiji's defense stood tall. Set pieces worked as they made 43 complete passes. One more try from Benito Masilevu and Fiji led 17-0 at the break.
Well, the way Kenya defend really suits us. If they're passive like that and just hold off us a little bit, then we can be patient and just wait for opportunities. And we've got some great players that will be able to do that very well, and that's what happened.
The team continued with the momentum, and in the second half, Ilaitinai crossed over the whitewash. Kenya threw all in the game, but the Fijians were just at their best, and Sakyusa Nandruku dived over for the team's 5th try in the 3rd minutes of the second half. And to add consolation, winger Masilevu got his 2nd try on 8 minutes. Fiji crowned the plate champions, thumping Kenya 36-0. In Gold Coast, Vashnil Prasad, Fiji One News.
Australia and New Zealand met at the Gold Coast Cup final. It was the All Black Sevens fitness and a bit of Fijian flair that saw them snuff the victory straight from the grasps of the Aussies.
So good at it. It's literally the Fijian team wearing black and scoring tries like we do. Just that Gordon Tidgens knows best how to do it.
We've been in a similar situation and we've come off on the wrong side of the ledger, and I knew that could happen. They play with a lot of passion.
Earlier on, all else had failed as they trailed Australia 12-0. The hosts starving New Zealand of possession, rendering them powerless. Stannard! James Stannard, try Australia! So the All Blacks looked to Tomasi Dama to steady the ship back for a 14-12 advantage at the break.
The double round with Farmer, Mickelson, Clark makes the tackle, and there's another try for the speedster out wide Ambrose Curtis.
The second spell was a Fijian show, as Australia crumbled to the fitter and faster Kiwis. Dama crossed over for a deserved try, followed by Waisake Naholo and then David Raikuna. New Zealand coming back even stronger with 6 tries for a 40-19 victory.
Some players certainly put their hand up this weekend, which is pleasing.
Other winners for the night, France defeated Canada 19-14 for the bowl, and USA beat Portugal to take the shield. William Tambuya, Fiji One News.
And New Zealand Sevens playmaker Tomasi Dama has admitted they did not expect to win at the Gold Coast. The side had been together for only a week but produced a stunning comeback.
Yeah, I guess we came in this week. We think that we're a little bit underdone with how we prepped this week. Obviously, last week we just met up on Monday, and for the boys to be out here and put out a performance like that, very pleasing. I guess everyone, we all know how we can attack. But one thing, we have to D up, and which worked for us this week. It's all about attitude. If you want to make tackle, you're just going to get there and make tackle. And obviously, we've got a good system on our defense. I'm there now, if I started, I have to finish it. But in saying that, I have to go back home and start training well.
Fiji is currently 5th on the new Sevens World Series standings. We collected 13 points for winning the plate final ahead of Kenya. New Zealand sits at the top with 22 points ahead of Australia, followed by England and South Africa. England will once again face their former coach Ben Ryan after they were drawn with Fiji, Canada and USA in Pool C in next month's Dubai Sevens. Fiji is seeded 2nd in Pool C to England, to whom they had lost to, in the second Cup quarter-final at the Gold Coast over the weekend. After their Cup win at the first round of the series, New Zealand are top seed and head Pool A. Runners-up Australia, third-placed England and fourth semi-finalist South Africa head the remaining pools.
We've got a tough draw now in Dubai. We've got England, who are always good in Dubai, as I know, USA and Canada, who are fast improving, but we haven't done well in Dubai for a long time, and it's about time we really put in a very good performance there.
Tailevu are all geared up to take on Androngai in the final Fairbrother Sullivan Trophy Challenge this Saturday. The match will be played at 7 p.m. at the ANZ Stadium. You can watch the match live on Sky Pacific's pay-per-view channel for just $20. Rugby fans here in Fiji and overseas can also watch the match through live streaming for only $12. Fijian-born Brumbies flyer Henry Speight is at the centre of a red tape fight for Australia to try and make him eligible to play for the Wallabies. Australian Rugby Union officials had hoped to have Speight cleared in time for the November tour to the UK, Ireland and Italy. But the International Rugby Board has ruled that he cannot play for the Wallabies until November 30th. That would mean that he is only eligible for the final test against Wales in Cardiff. And it obviously makes little sense for coach Ewan McKenzie to select him for the tour. Mba have showed that they are the true champions of Fiji football after winning their 22nd Inter-District Championship title in Lautoka yesterday. This was also their fourth football title of the season, only missing out in the Fiji Fact. They beat Nandi 2-1 in the extra time.
This was the 10th meeting in a Courts IDC final between Ba and Nandi. Both were out to break the drought, with Nandi last winning in 2002 and Ba in 2007. It was Nandi that broke the deadlock first from a counter-attack, allowing Canada-based William Etoma to give them the lead. Ba came back into the match in the second half when Nandi's Munit Krishna handled the ball inside the penalty box, giving jubilation to the Ba team. Avinesh Swami stepped up to take the shot and sent Ba fans into frenzy.
We could say we are a consistent team, and losing out in the final whereby we prepared so well would been a lot of pain.
The game was evenly matched between the two sides until this moment in the second spell of extra time.
Winning title is nothing new for Ba, but just like this was most of the prestigious trophy, and just like the trophy will be changed. So we are so proud that we have won 23 times and we're going to keep the trophy. So what a prize for us for winning this 2013.
It was dedication, discipline and determination that pulled Ba together as a team. Player of the tournament, Josephat Naimbuli, was over the moon for his outstanding performance in the black jersey.
I was not expecting to be the player of the tournament. Well, but I want to give the Almighty the thanks and the honor.
Ba players stood tall in the end, taking out another title, their fourth this season, POG, Champions League, National League and this IDC. Irfan Khan, Fiji One News.
Nandi football president Navneet Gaunda will continue in his position even though his side lost to Mba 2-1 in the IDC final yesterday. It had been speculated that Gaunda will step down, but there is confirmation today that officials want him to continue. Gaunda is not happy as to how referee Finau Vulivuli controlled the final and the decisions she made on the field. Gaunda is disputing the penalty awarded to Mba, saying that Munit Krishna did not intentionally handle the ball. The match referee, however, had the final say, awarding the penalty to the men in black. This goal scored by Nandi in the dying minutes of the extra time has also been questioned, but Nandi officials say it was a clear goal.
I think so today we were robbed of the game, and at the first goal we scored, second scored by Ba. It was a clear offside, and Nandi made the goal. It was a good, clean-cut goal. And I think so, we were robbed of the result today.
Fiji Football Association has named the 4 teams to compete in the Pacific Cup tournament in New Zealand next month. The 4 selected were judged on their performance from the major football tournaments this season. It's a fully paid trip for the 4 sides from Fiji.
There's 4 teams that is invited to the Pacific Cup in Auckland, New Zealand in November, and the airfares are paid by New Zealand Fiji Football Inc. and the accommodation and meals. The 4 teams that will be participating after the Board of Control's decision with the consistency of BOG and IDC this year will be Ba, Nandi, Suva, and Lambasa.
The Suva-based Dolphin Swimming Club have been crowned the new champions of the short course age nationals that took place at the National Aquatic Centre over the weekend. Initially, the Nandi Barracudas were thought to have won it. But after a recount, the title was handed to the Dolphins with an overall medal tally of 106 gold medals, 8 more than the Barracudas.
The actual announced winner on the day was the Nandi Barracuda Club. Basically after reviewing the actual results and going through that by our track team and our Vice President Fernando Lobendan and the officials, executives, basically the net result was that the newly formed, reformed if you like, Dolphin Swim Club actually came out as victors.
Australia's bid to become the world's top-ranked one-day cricket nation has started with a 72-run upset win over India in the series' opening clash in Pune. Captain George Bailey and powerful opener Aaron Finch blasted contrasting half-centuries to send Australia to 8 for 304 before the tourists carefully controlled the Indian innings from the opening delivery. Chasing 305, which would have been India's highest successful run chase against Australia, the hosts lost early wickets and were always behind the required run rate before being bowled out for 232. Being the underdogs coming into the 7-match series, Australia stunned India in Game 1 with a comprehensive 72-run victory. Singatoka town was a hive of activity last Thursday as hundreds flocked to the Coral Coast tourist capital to get a glimpse of the 29th annual Mbilimbili races. While the actual races in the Singatoka River were left for later in the afternoon, the hype of the day, however, was the novelty games, which got the western town into a whirlwind of excitement as 12 hotels battled for supremacy.
It's an annual event that not only brings the best out of hotel workers in the Coral Coast region, but from other parts of Fiji. The 29th Mbilimbili Races is an eagerly anticipated event that has become a mainstay in Singatoka town.
Well, we're trying to do something for Singatoka Bridge for this year, but at the moment we are like in a tight schedule. We can't do everything in one. And as I said to Mr. Bob, I think we can put a logo in a t-shirt, but we can celebrate 100 years too for the bridge.
According to Virviri Rivalu, whilst they would have loved to host more teams at the annual event, they have had to stop at 12 because of the lack of space to accommodate larger entries.
We'll only allow 12 outriggers on the river now, not outriggers, Mbilimbilis, simply because we're running out of space, let alone for spectators. At the moment, we seem to have plenty of space here, but wait till that crowd on the road wants to come down on the riverbank here and all these boats get off the beach. It then becomes very crowded. It's become a significant event.
The hype surrounding the 100th-year existence of the old Singatoka Bridge also brought life to the celebrations as tourists and locals turned out in numbers to be part of the event.
We've got a headache this year in the fact that we're upriver a little bit from the normal finish line because the old bridge, 100 years of it, had so much rubbish on it that a lot of it is still there. And that's what built up and caused the bridge to break. It acted like a dam. And a lot of that stuff is still buried under the water out here. In fact, there's 2 events we've had to cancel.
Meanwhile, the Shangri-La Fijian Resort successfully defended its title at the meet and walked away with the men's and women's titles. Madhyam Balitamana, Fiji One News.
That's sports for tonight, Vili.
Thanks, Myron. The government shutdown in the US enters its 3rd week. That's coming up in World News. Stay with us. In World News tonight, in India, a huge relief and cleanup operation is now underway in the wake of Cyclone Phelan. Houses and trees were blown away and 14 people were killed. Not to minimize the loss of life, but considering this was the strongest storm to hit the area since 1999, many feared it would be much worse. Almost 1 million people were evacuated ahead of time. The Israel military says it has found what it calls a terror tunnel running from Gaza into Israel, the 3rd such tunnel discovered in the past year. And reports say Israel is freezing shipments of building materials into Gaza in response. Jim Clancy is in Jerusalem with more.
Palestinian sources tell CNN Hamas began evacuating police stations and some office buildings in the Gaza Strip, fearing a retaliatory strike after Israel uncovered what it branded to be a terror tunnel. The tunnel was clearly not designed for the smuggling of food and fuel, and it came with a warning.
If the Hamas will carry out a terror operation, an operation from a terror tunnel, it will pay a heavy price. And I think Gaza will look different if such an attack is carried out.
The tunnel extended 1.7 kilometers, about a mile, from the Khan Yunis refugee camp in northern Gaza across the border into Israel and near the kibbutz of Ain Hashlosha. Israeli TV Channel 10 broadcast video that showed the tunnel, which was at least 18 meters deep, wired for electricity and communications, and high enough for a man to stand, walk, or run through. It was fully lined with an estimated 500 tons of concrete on the top and both sides. Israel announced it was halting supplies for concrete and construction materials going into Gaza. An Israeli reporter who was inside the tunnel said he saw markings and dates indicating the tunnel had been completed in July. Israeli Defense Forces published a statement saying the most likely use for such a tunnel would be to kidnap Israeli soldiers or civilians and take them back into Gaza, hoping to trade them for Palestinian prisoners.
We're talking about a whole industry and not a small group that is organizing it. This is a terror industry in every way recognizable.
A similar tunnel was used to kidnap IDF soldier Gilad Shalit in June of 2006. It ended 5 years later with Israel releasing more than 1,000 prisoners who were collectively accused of killing hundreds of Israelis. This latest tunnel discovery increases fears on the Israeli side for its sheer size and sophistication. The Israeli military says it is operating under the assumption there are more tunnels out there.
U.S. lawmakers are no closer to a deal on opening government or increasing the debt ceiling. The shutdown is moving into its third week today. And Congress only has until Thursday, October the 17th, to pass a debt ceiling increase or face a possible economic catastrophe. Here's what International Monetary Fund Chief Christine Lagarde had to say about the looming deadline for a debt ceiling increase.
There's nothing like a deadline to actually reach the target, and I would hope that that deadline operates in that fashion. But that was the view expressed by all ministers in town in Washington for 2 days, who've come from all corners of the world for the annual meeting of the IMF. They are concerned because the US is the biggest economy in the world, because it trades with all of them, because it has massive financial consequences for them as well. So it's an international concern that was expressed.
And finally tonight, and still in the US, police in New York say they have finally cracked a murder mystery they have been trying to solve for more than 20 years. They say they have caught the man who killed a 4-year-old girl known only as Baby Hope. And they say they now know the child's real identity too. Margaret Conley explains how police broke this case.
It was a break that caught an alleged killer and revealed Baby Hope's real name.
Detectives from the Bronx Violent Felony Squad apprehended Conrado Juarez, age 52, of the Bronx, also known as Enadino Juarez, in connection with the murder of 4-year-old Angelica Castillo, a child victim known for the last 22 years as Baby Hope.
Retired Detective Jerry Giorgio had heard from colleagues they were close to solving the case.
When I got the phone call, I got the news, I was elated, just elated. I was up on cloud 9.
He was the lead detective in 1991. The decomposed body of a 4-year-old girl was found stuffed in this cooler, discarded by a highway. Her body was folded in half and bound. She had been sexually abused. No one ever claimed the body. Days turned to months, turned to years. By 1993, the 34th Precinct Squad had given the little girl the name Baby Hope and a face recreated by computer rendering. The squad also paid for her funeral.
Wasn't a dry eye in the bunch, including me, and the church was full, about 500 people in church. She truly became a member of the community.
Anniversaries passed, but police persisted, and finally a break. Police recently got a call on their hotline. The caller said she'd been told several years ago by a young woman that her parents had killed her sister. That tip and advances in DNA testing led cold case detectives to find the mother of baby Hope and eventually arrest the cousin who police say murdered her. At her funeral over 2 decades ago, Assistant Chief Joe Resnick delivered her eulogy.
The justice is going to be when some judge lowers his gavel and says, you're going to jail for the rest of your life.
In this final chapter for these detectives, they'll soon replace this plaque at baby Hope's grave and set in stone her name, Angelica Castillo.
Fine weather was experienced over most parts of the country today. An active trough of low pressure lies over Solomons and extends over Tuvalu and Wallis and Futuna. Meanwhile, a broad easterly wind flow prevails over the southwest Pacific Islands. Recapping the headlines, unity, key link to sweeter deals between ACP and the EU, fuel price hike effective at midnight, and centralizing emergency response. That's Fiji One News. Thanks for joining us. Have a good evening.